Ready?
What is called?
All right, we're ready to call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the ARPA Commission on August 1st, 2022 at 1:30 p.m. And we are meeting in the town office building, in the upper level conference room. And there are some people joining us on Zoom. Just a roll call. We just went around the room and realized we're missing 4 of our commission members today. Donald Latinsix, Mike D'Amato, Samantha Hills, and Robin Campbell's missing at the moment, and she may be joining us, but she is working alone in the town clerk's office right now. So we have quorum, so we can proceed. First item is approval of minutes, and I know I had sent out the minutes from the 18th, but I don't think we have the 11th yet. Did I send you guys the 11th like 2 weeks ago? Yeah. Now I'm thinking about it. I think I maybe sent it after or saw it after the last meeting. And I forgot to look them up. Well, I definitely sent out the 18th. That was last week. I don't know if anyone wants to make a motion to approve those.
I'll move to approve the minutes from July 18th. To approve the minutes for July 18th.
Second.
So you're saying that you didn't see them?
Yeah, I sent you an email that the most recent minutes are not online yet.
Well, I don't think they get posted to the website, the town website, until they're approved.
No,
Oh,
they're, I'm just gonna look to see.
Yeah.
Robin posts them when she gets them.
If you click on the link for July 27th online, you'll get the June 27th minutes. There's nothing more recent.
oh, okay,
I sent you an email.
okay.
And Robin too.
Today?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't looked at it. I should have. All right. Well, so then we can't approve them?
Yes. I think it has to be posted online first.
Okay,
June 27th.
well, then we can move on. We'll
I
get-
withdraw my motion.
Okay, all right. Correspondence, I don't think that there is, and I haven't looked at my email today, so I didn't see Don's email, but I don't think that we have any other correspondence. Anything. So present to speak.
If I may.
Yeah, sure.
I had sent you an email on June
Can you
6th.
identify yourself for the record?
Um,
And you may need to talk a little bit louder so you can be heard. Thank you.
Don Berg, 34 Red Oak Hill Road, Wellington, Connecticut. I just wanted to re-mention that I had sent an email to Christina, and I think it may have made it to the board, that as part of our generator request, there was a couple of items that amounted to a total of $4,642 that we would like to add to our system to make it quieter, make it as quiet as possible since it's located between the buildings. And my request is if there are funds available, then request be increased by that $4,642 to accommodate the quieter two generators, if the money's available.
Okay.
See so fit to allocate it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Robin. Robin is joining us via Zoom. Okay. Under new business, we really don't have any. And unfinished business, we have requests to be closed. Donna had sent me an email that ARPA 4 is ready to be closed. And so we could entertain a motion that would include the amount and returning it to Fund 19.
I'll move to close ARPA 4 radios for DPW use. and return $9,053.98 to Fund 19.
Second.
Sure. For seconded. Any discussion about that one?
Are they all in, Troy? So there's, you don't need anything, you won't need anything else?
Nope, the way, no, there's nothing. No. Everything's there, so.
All right, ready to vote? All in favor of closing Article 4?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that's nice. Yep, so now we can add another $9,000 to the amount that's available. So, updates on previously funded requests. This is basically status quo from last time. I don't think any big changes have happened on anything that's already been funded.
The mention of the ARPA 3, last figure I had from the finance office is we have $28,000 left. But there are ongoing expenditures, we're still waiting for equipment to come in.
Okay,
So we put a dent to the 100,000.
And I'm not sure if we paid the final bills on ARPA 7, but the project is done into the ACV.
okay, that's good. Get closer.
And the, on the project that was devices for town hall, and if you all recall, that was 3 parts. So there was some work to the network cabinet downstairs, Wi-Fi upgrades in this building, and the devices. The devices are in, the monitors are in, the docking stations we're using aren't. So like I have a laptop, but it's anyone, we're starting to sparse them out. But the docking stations hopefully will be in the middle of this month. The Wi-Fi project is probably the one that's going to keep us from closing this project. Last end of, I think on Friday, the information I received was that some of the items we need, the wireless access points are due in March of 23. So, and just for reference sake, Phil's been waiting about a year for access points for the schools. So if we get ours in March, I'll be happy with that. But so this project probably will be open for some time because of that one portion of it, but I expect the devices portion to be complete.
Have you heard anything about EDCs Article 14?
No.
No.
I know they canceled their July 13th meeting. I don't know that they did a special meeting. I apologize. I was on a vacation the week after that. But I have not heard anything. I know they had fewer applications than they had expected. So I don't know. I'm not really sure where they're at with that. So I'm curious to hear whether or not they were thinking about going back out, if they would just return those funds.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So anything else on any of those previously funded requests? Move on. Updates on previously heard requests. There's really no, I think the library request that it's still the same. I know that they have other requests that they would like to make. So if we decide to open back up our application submission process, I'm sure that there will be more from them and probably from others. So updates on requests heard at public hearing. So this is where we last left off. We were looking at this list and we decided to put our decision-making on hold because there were some questions, and I see that our attorney O'Donnell is here. That is, I'm guessing, to talk about what we should do.
Yes. So I think you had had some questions as to whether or not we could proceed with this board. I know I had shared with you, Ryan, you hopefully can unmute if not. We didn't discuss this at our last meeting before we had some a member of the public mention that she had taken action. And so we halted what we were doing. I spoke to the attorney about that, but what I had brought to you before that our attorney had shared was that this board still had the authority to move forward with decisions, specifically when we were talking about the retention bonuses that were earmarked for town employees, that if those who were benefiting from it recused, that this board could still continue to make that decision, or at the very least have a discussion about it. And I know you all still had some questions and concerns, so I asked Ryan to be with us so you could hear.
Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Usually it's always good to see everybody. So I can answer any questions that come up, or at least to the best of my ability. If there's answers I don't have, we'll find them. But the general position is that my general position is that we've set up the board properly, and we've been addressing this through the proper all the allocation issues and the board issues have been addressed by have been in this committee's been empowered by town meeting to do so, which is how we do things here. And until town meeting revokes that, the ability to do that, as long as we're not doing anything that runs afoul of other ordinances or statutes, there shouldn't be any issues. As far as the recusal issues go, I think that's almost a separate ethical question. It's almost like a board of ethics issue. But big picture, I don't think it would hurt. And I think it's advisable for people who would benefit directly to recuse themselves and not take part in the conversation. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that delegitimizes the board or strips the power that it was given by the townsfolk to begin with, right? It's just another example of how responsible and careful this committee's being. So that's my big picture on it. I'm happy to try to answer any specific questions about it, just with the caveat that if it's something I can't answer off the top of my head, we'll have to do a little bit of research to make sure that we're providing the proper advice.
So I guess my question, and I understand that that's the preferred way to move forward with all of these things. It's the only way that we have been empowered forward, but by town meeting. But if we had something and we did want to bring that a particular item back to town meeting, can we?
Sure. I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, I think you would set it up and say, look, guys, we know we're empowered to do this, but we feel like it's such a weighty question that it requires additional input from the town. I mean, I don't see, it's not like this committee has like a complex charter and, sort of operating code and past practice. And we're sort of in uncharted waters with ARPA and this kind of a committee. So I think anything that is, that enhances transparency or makes folks feel more comfortable in the work that the board's doing, or I'm sorry, that the committee's doing, is certainly acceptable. I wouldn't put it out there as though we don't have the authority to do this, but that we're sort of, again, I'm sort of thinking out loud here, so I don't want this isn't my formal position on the matter, but just kind of discussing amongst everybody here. I don't see why that would be a problem. And I think we would say we're not ceding authority, or we're not giving authority that was granted to us away. We're simply supplementing that authority by checking back in with the town. I don't think that I don't see an issue there. I want to reserve. I want to be in true lawyer fashion. I want to reserve the ability to just verify that. But off the top of my head, talking to you guys right now, I don't see an actual problem doing that.
And then our other question was, since we heard about this allegation that was made, Erica very wisely thought we shouldn't move forward until we knew more about that. Even though it wasn't necessarily connected, well, we don't actually know what the exact allegation was, but and so should we continue on until we know? Or should we?
So I'm sorry. What was the exact issue again with the allegations?
Yeah, this is, so the allegation that was made to, we had a resident who came in and said she went to the Inspector General of the Treasury.
Oh, right. Yes.
Accused us basically of misappropriating funds. Now,
Right.
the comments, because I did go back and, although it was at the meeting, went back to see the exact words that were said at that meeting. They weren't spoken with a specific project in mind, but certainly alluded to one that a Board of Finance had taken a position on, and that is the employee retention bonuses. The member is also a member of the Board of Finance. And so we have heard nothing here
Right.
in my office regarding this matter. I feel confident in all of the actions taken by this commission. And if the charge was specifically about that particular project, this commission didn't even discuss it after public hearing. So we didn't discuss whether or not we would make that decision, whether we would move on to a town meeting before someone went forward and took this to a higher authority. If that in fact happened, again, I don't have any documentation from her and don't have any documentation from that office, but don't know how long that will go. And so do we sit on making decisions, or do we continue on in the fashion we've been going?
But and so yeah, thank you, Eric. I did remember which issue that was, but now I do. I think as far as that goes, absent the provision of actionable evidence, we should go forward. Making allegations is pretty easy. That can be done for any number of reasons, politically or otherwise. And I think, generally speaking, committees don't hold up processes unless, especially ones that are empowered by the townspeople to do something specific, like we have here. We've been charged with executing this pretty serious responsibility, and I think unless we have actual evidence that there's a problem, it would be a mistake to stop, right? I think what we need to do here is invite this individual to provide any information, any concrete information that they have. I mean, we don't want to ignore or sort of brush aside folks' concerns, but if someone is going to go and raise issues like this, I would hope they would do so, they would turn over whatever documentation they have that would justify us then spending money and conducting a full investigation. But what they're asking us to do right now is to take their word for it, stop the whole process, and restart it maybe never. So I think the first step would be to request a more, whatever information this individual has to request let us see it, and if it is actionable, then obviously we would I would then recommend that we move to an investigation, and then maybe we would pause the process if some of these allegations were worth doing so for. But I think until we have something more concrete, it's hard to ask us to do that.
One of the things that occurred to me was she told us about it, but in a lot of cases, we might not even know. There could be all kinds of complaints made in all different places, but until someone tells us that they are going to investigate it, then we can't really do anything about it. And I don't think we should wait. I mean, it could take years before.
I mean, and at that point, I think if our sort of threshold for stopping is that somebody raises an issue, then anybody who doesn't like what the committee's doing can stop the process by raising a complaint, whether or not it's backed up by hard evidence or not. So I think that our standard should be, show us something, emails, something that shows that we're behaving in a way that's somehow not appropriate to what we are authorized to do, and or that there's a member of the committee that's gone rogue. I don't know. Give us something, but not just I don't like what you're doing because. I think we need more than that before we spend the money and time on an investigation and stop our own allocation process. But Christina, I'd say that I do think we should be opening and sort of say, look, if someone's got an issue, by all means, bring it to our attention, and it's going to get a full and fair hearing and a full and fair airing. But we just have to have something more concrete before we stop what we're doing and engage it. So.
Yeah. Any more questions for Attorney Madam?
No, can I just, Ryan, ask you to weigh in on the, if this commission were to decide to take any project outside of this commission and back to a town meeting, does that need to go, in your opinion, would that need to go back to the Board of Finance or just from us to town meeting? Because we have the authority to appropriate the dollars. It's not within a typical budget process.
No, because I think this is outside the typical budget process. I don't think we would go back to the Board of Finance.
And do you feel it sets any precedent if we do one for others to, question decisions or actions that would force us to move in that manner?
It does raise interesting questions of anytime, whether it's Board of Selectmen or even Board of Finance, does something that a majority of the townspeople don't like, could you just call a town meeting and try to work around that? But I guess that's already in place anyway. I guess would this encourage folks to do that more? Maybe, but I think it would become unworkable pretty quickly if we just sort of devolve into a situation where if somebody doesn't like how something's being handled, instead of using using the ballot box in November elections, they say, oh, we're just going to have a town meeting. And then, I mean, for literally any issue that comes up, we could have a town meeting about it. Which is because we don't have a charter, so we do kind of run into that territory of the town meeting is an awesome tool for really direct democracy, but it could be abused by people who want to gum up the works, let's say. So, yes, Eric, I think that's a valid concern.
But I think this board would make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to call the town meeting because.
I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
so that can be heard. So if another Board of Finance member comes to us, they understand if this commission makes that choice, that how the
Right.
process would go.
Right. Right. But I'm just thinking of what Ryan was saying, that how it could potentially devolve. It would always go through the Board of Selectmen, who would then have to determine if it was frivolous and all those other things that they have to decide whether or not they're going to call the meeting. So anyone can pass a petition to call a town meeting, or anyone can ask for there to be a town meeting, but until the selectmen determine that it's actually lawful and not frivolous, and there's like 5 criteria, I forgot the other ones were, but they would have a process to determine that. So I think
Yeah.
how it would end. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Ryan,
And then,
Robin's got it.
Robert,
oh, hi, Robin.
Hey, Robin.
should be able to unmute.
Okay, sorry about that. Hi, how are you?
Hey.
Okay, I just have a question, and it's only because it makes me open up and whatnot. I do know that the ordinance was passed at town meeting to create our commission, the ARPA commission. However, I keep stumbling on state statute 7-348, which is the Board of Finance has the authority, like nobody can override the authority to spend money unless the Board of Finance is involved. That's just, I want to make sure that, if somebody does open an investigation, that we are indeed following what we need to make sure everything's in line.
Yeah, and I think without the memo in front of me, Eric, I think that we addressed that issue in a previous memo. So I'd refer back to that memo. We have the capacity to do that under our form of town governments. Um, I will tell you this: the town of Billington is a unique animal in how we're governed. Um, it's a beautiful animal, but a unique one. So I just
I'm
think
not
that we
in
have to kind of keep that in mind
disagreement.
sometimes. I think when we're talking about how we do things, it is important to bear in mind that we're not really like everybody else, and that we do have some unique parameters to our system of governance here. And again, without having that memo in front of me, it is available, and Erica does have it. And if we take another look at it, that's fine. I'm happy to answer any questions about it. But
It's a statute talking about not contracting in excess of appropriations, and these
Right.
dollars were outside of that appropriation or the budgetary process. So
Right.
definitely
And,
a
and
copy.
again, and this is external to the budgetary process too, which I think is important to bear in mind. What we're not doing is we are not contracting to spend, budgeted monies beyond what we have, right? Which is the purpose of the statute. We're spending ARPA funds, which is different, and we're not entering the town into long-term contractual agreements that we can't pay for. That is really the gist of that statute, is to make sure that somebody doesn't come along, lock the town into a long-term spending program that wasn't authorized, right? That's really what the purpose of that statutory language is.
Thanks, Ryan. I just wanted to make sure that was touched upon, just to
Of course.
be sure and had your opinion on that. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
And then this isn't really a question for Brian, but the other thing was we didn't have the money yet at the
Right.
at the
Right.
last meeting. So that's why we didn't take action. We figured we could wait to you and to maybe get the money. And we still don't have it.
So
We still don't have the money.
they have 30 days. So we anticipate the first tranche, I think they took their 30 days. So we're probably close to on or before August 22nd. Second tranche. But the good news is they sent us information that it's coming.
Okay.
That's better than we had before.
All right. Okay. So I guess that leaves us at just at the possible action part of our agenda, where we can decide what we want to do with these items that we have before us now. So, yeah, I think we're good with Ryan.
Stay and listen, or would be okay if we had to go. Thank you.
Erica, I will hop off, and if I'm needed, just summon me.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day and a great week. Take care.
We have a motion. We have something on the
Oh,
table.
right, yes,
And I'd be
sorry.
happy to move
Okay.
that we take that off the table.
Okay, yeah. Sure. I forgot exactly how.
The motion on the table is to send, well, do you want to make the motion to take it off the table?
Yeah, that's what I just. I'll move that the table.
I'll second.
Okay, now we can discuss
We vote
and vote.
to take it off.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so we're voting to take it off the table. All in favor?
I don't understand that motion.
There was a
What's
motion at
it?
our last meeting.
What's it?
So it
Taking
was-
off the table.
It was the motion to move the two items.
32 and
related-
36.
32 and 36 to a town meeting. Or
That
really, I
was
worded it.
The motion
ask
was
the
to send
selectmen.
30, the motion in the minutes is to send 32 and 36 to a town meeting for consideration,
We're just voting to talk,
to talk
bring it
about.
back for discussion and votes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Now we're voting to take it.
to take it off the table so we can discuss it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're just gonna discuss it now. Anybody opposed to discussing it? Any abstentions?
Sorry.
Okay, so now we can talk about the motion on the table, which is whether or not to bring those two items to the town meeting. And I guess I would friendly amend it to say, recommend to the Board of Selectmen to call a town meeting with those two items on as a question to the townspeople. So any comments on that?
I'd be happy to start. I still don't like the town meeting concept. More because, like, it was included in another appropriation selectmen's budget, or it was in some bigger thing, and it's going on town meeting like a budget process does, or something like that. Sure. Kind of having these two things hang out there on their own, it's kind of, it's, I guess, don't like the notion of doing that. And it's kind of like, just say, you know, state employee raises or whatever benefits they get, we're gonna do a referendum statewide to see if that was gonna pass. So we're gonna, it's not a popular thing. It's just, I think at this point, we've hashed it out so much. And I'm sensitive to the employees in that type of environment, and whether that's a great thing to do. So, but if I can continue, quiet for a little bit. After everything that's been said and about this and your concerns and others, trying to push it through with a couple of votes, I'm not sure that that's, at this point, after listening to everything, is the greatest thing either. So I don't know where, for me, that leaves us exactly. The only thing I want to throw out there, please don't throw anything back, is perhaps a third option, so we can kind of address the concerns of those that think there should be more people voting on it. Like, maybe we have the approval power or authority to approve. I get that, and I think we could have went with that, and I said it before, and I think you know how I feel about the whole issue of the bonuses. But could we send it to the Board of Finance as a little bit less of a thing than going to a town meeting? Could we send it to the Board of Finance for their concurrence, a vote and a concurrence, just so we address that? Let's get more people into this that aren't on the commission. Just that's all. I just kind of want to throw that out there. I know you have a motion to go to town meeting, which anyway, so.
But yeah, I didn't either, and I'm not opposed to that. I think, you know, we set up a commission with an ordinance at town meeting, and there was much discussion about it. And so part of me is concerned with saying, you know, us saying, well, we don't think we have the authority to do all that we said we could do, and picking and choosing what we go back to. And I do think it opens a little bit of a Pandora's box. But I hear the concerns, and you know, I question whether or not people would feel the same way if I had not made a proposal that was unanimously supported by the Board of Selectmen to come to ARPA, that if it were just the fire department request and there were only one member that might benefit from it, would we still be having the same discussion? Is it really that the people here are voting on it, or, to Tom's point, are we taking now an employee incentive item to town meeting for everyone and kind of singling that particular ARPA project out? And I have concerns with singling that particular project out. I will let you know that while I don't know what every town is doing, I do look to see, as much as I can, how other towns are spending their dollars. I will tell you that the town manager in Mansfield has approached myself and the first selectman in Ashford to discuss a similar project they have before their ARPA commission. They've included all of their school staff in Region 19, which is why he's reached out to us to see if we would. I did separate from the school, and the fire department did something separate on their own. So we are not alone in this. Other ARPA spending is looking at a way to give back a little bit to their staff. And so the town of Mansfield is looking to move forward with that, whether or not they have support from the town of Ashford and the town of Mansfield. So we're not alone in that. But I think I feel confident in the work that we do and how we look at it, but I am open to letting the Board of Finance weigh in on the merits of the project. And I think that's what's important to take them to them is the merit of the project as opposed to the process. With that, I did tell the Mansfield that we weren't on a pause because we weren't on a pause when he and I had this conversation. It came up at the same time. And so I was waiting to see how this went, to see whether or not we talked about it at Board of Selectmen, to see if we wanted to revamp what we were asking for and potentially include Region 19. And in my mind, I couldn't include Region 19 if we didn't think about our own
Right,
school staff here. So,
right.
it, you know,
And I think the library would probably, their employees. Ask you.
I would say yes, except they were closed for a long period of time. But, you know, so I would look at it a little bit, but you know, I think we all were, but they didn't come to us, but I personally don't know that I feel comfortable moving forward with our Region 19 without looking at our town school
Yeah.
staff. So,
And then there's.
right.
Yeah, so that's.
And that I would be open to, I think we'd all be open to any of that discussion, but I haven't heard anyone say anything about the amounts. They thought they were too high, or they thought they were too low. You try to do something that's, you know, not insulting, like I'm gonna hand you $20, here's $20, thanks for your hard work. And so find a balance, because I was looking at a smaller pool, I went with this dollar amount. I can tell you Mansfield is looking at a much larger pool, and so their dollar amount is smaller. And so, you know, it's something for us to think about before this were to go to a town meeting. Board of Selectmen could say, look, we want to, maybe we do want to participate in this and revamp it, but I still feel the same way that I think things should go through the ARPA commission as a whole.
So it sounds like. Well, so the original motion is to just to ask the selectmen to bring this to town meeting, which we could do. But it sounds like there's now maybe a reason to pause and think about it more holistically. But also maybe think about another way, which is to go to the Board of Finance.
I'd be open to having the Board of Finance kind of give us their feedback before I was comfortable ceding our authority.
We're kind of acknowledging that this is a little bit of a different project than the other stuff. And I'm not saying that, I think it's a concurrent, it's a vote of, we ultimately, we're kind of ceding the decision to them sort of, but we're still using our authority to make the decision. Like we're taking their opinion, and giving it real heavy weight, right? That's kind of what I'm. What do you think?
Yeah,
As the board, as the.
Yeah, as a member of the Board of Finance, I do think that makes sense. And mostly from the perspective of that Board of Finance knows about all of the ins and outs of the salaries and the issues with just the, you know, how we pay our employees. So they're aware of all of that, probably more than the average person is. And they also understand the impact of budgets, this and that this would not have an ongoing impact on the budget. So, so it's just Board of Finance doesn't understand the whole financial picture and how this can actually help. So. That's good. So yeah, so I think I'll withdraw my motion at this point and make a different motion.
Second.
Who was the second?
Stuart
Yeah.
was the second.
Who is?
Stuart.
Stuart. Oh,
Stuart.
Stuart's the second. Okay.
What motion are you?
I am, my motion to ask the selectmen to call a town meeting on those two items. Because I'm going to make a different motion asking to ask the Board of Finance for their input on it. Not necessarily to make the decision about it, but to ask them for their input before we make another decision.
So because I seconded, what are you saying? I need
She's
to do?
withdrawing. Are you willing to withdraw your second?
All right, so all in favor of withdrawing the motion? Say aye.
I don't think.
You don't need, I think if you both withdraw the
Oh,
motion. you
then we
withdraw
don't
the
have
motion.
to, okay,
It's gone.
yes, you're right. Okay, so then my second motion is to bring the question of those two items, ARPA 36 and ARPA 32, to the Board of Finance for their consideration and input.
I will second that.
Discussion about that.
My only point of discussion, and I apologize, I'm gonna use my phone simply for a calendar. Your next meeting will be the third Thursday in August, right? So the 18th.
Yeah.
Which would leave this commission not hearing from them until really our September meeting, which coincidentally is Labor Day. So that's
not
right. We have to talk about, which I think is okay, that could potentially give the Board of Selectmen just ample time to discuss the potential larger request,
Mhm.
which plays into another part of our meeting, which is, are we gonna open up additional
Right.
requests? Because my thought is that additional number of people would be in more dollars.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
And if we don't talk about it for a couple meetings here, it's simply because of timing.
Okay, any other points, any discussion?
Can't speak,
Right now, no. Robin, you're good? You guys are still with us on Zoom? Okay, so all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Good. Stuart, and Stuart, did you?
He
He said-
he said
You
yes.
said yes.
What,
Okay.
what was Robin?
Rob,
You're muted.
I'll actually abstain.
So if we have, that makes it a tie.
And what about Jenny?
She abstained.
She abstained, so 1, 2, 4, 6, 4.
I believe abstentions don't count.
Yeah, there was no.
Yeah, they-
Okay.
There's no.
Right.
Okay.
So then it passes. Then. Okay, so that's what we'll do. I'll write a letter to the Board of Finance and ask them for their input. I'm sure they'll put it on their agenda. And
But,
and
and
then we'll have
so,
more.
just a discussion point. I don't, if they, I don't see going against personally what they decide. I'm just saying,
Well, we could.
because, yeah, but then we kind of get back to where we're at.
Yeah.
For me, in my mind, and this just is me, I'm kind of saying, all right, unless you, I don't know, is that what you're thinking? I mean, I don't see them saying, voting the opposite of what they decide, because we're kind of saying this is different, we're sending it to you for your. But because of that fact, because we've heard and all that's been said and all that, and it's a different couple of projects, so we want your input. I'll see what happens.
Tom, is it that we're looking for their input on the project or the input on the process?
I'm looking for
Or
a
both.
yay or nay.
On the process
On
or the
on
project?
On the project.
On the project,
I'm looking for a yay or,
right, and I
that's what I'm
think,
looking for, yes
but
or no.
I think that's important when they have their discussion, is it gonna be a meaningful discussion about the process or the projects? And that's where we
Yeah.
would say, we agree with you, or we don't, but if they only talk about the process,
Right.
then it, you know,
And I, yeah.
I personally, I
think
just
the
like-
process is.
Right.
There's nothing more to talk about.
right, that's why I think it's important that that discussion be on the project.
Project. For me, it's like, we need your help with this one,
Right.
because of all the
It's
things we've
unique.
said.
Because
So
it's
yes or
unique.
no, and then move on. Let's move on. I think we owe it to the employees to do that, to move on. One way or another, it's either up or down, and then whatever it is.
It does add a larger voice to those commissioners that are not benefiting from it and have not stepped away from the process.
Right.
So, right. Okay. I just want to be sure we were looking for the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. Okay. All right, so those two, we have made a decision on, at least an action, there's action on this. Now there's the rest of the ones. And I guess question is, do we want to make a decision about spending, knowing that we don't have the funds available yet? Or, but if they could become available before the next time we meet, because that's another thing I was gonna bring up is that I'm on vacation next week, so I can't do an agenda next Friday for the meeting after that, so I can ask Kelsey to help.
Our office, my office can help with the
Yeah.
agenda, that's not a problem. But if we're looking at provisionary spending at that point then, right? So it's, it's contingent on us having the actual dollars in hand. And we still have some projects from the first round of approvals that are waiting to go.
Yeah.
The public works generator, Troy's ready to go with that, and I had to say, we don't have the money, so we gotta wait. Like, you know, we were calling a town meeting, we could go through the whole process and get anything we needed. It was a big town meeting, but, and I said, we gotta pause, because we can't approve something we don't have the money for.
Right.
So there's still some in there, so I think that's approving them, we'd say the same thing to them, like, if we approve, we're agreeing to fund this project if and when the funds become available.
Right.
Right. So I don't believe it's gonna be an if, I believe it's only a when, but that's what we would say, which is the same thing we've said to the air packs for Wellington Hill and the some other items. So if we were to talk about a couple of these things today, I think it would be okay, or we could put it off if everyone felt comfortable with, we know the money's here. And it's come in, and I think if we don't have a meeting next time, we'd have really meaningful conversations at September meeting.
And the other thing is, if we decide on to fund some of these today, then at least people can start getting some work, you know, all the lineup work done. Knowing the money's coming and knowing that they can do it. So that they're ready to go once it comes in. It should be by the 27th.
It should be. That's just a kind of a, looking at some of these and then, we had some requests, and I can think of just one off the top of my head, that we turned back to the individuals and said, you really need to apply through EDC, because that was for small businesses and nonprofits. But then we had some nonprofits come to us
Mhm.
with additional requests, and we didn't send those back to EDC.
That's true.
I think we need to ask ourselves why. And be prepared to answer that question to both anyone who may have asked for funding in what capacity, or if we were to say no to another group. That
I think we need a report from EDC. in
we
terms
do.
of, you know, what have they done, what are they going to do, and what's their take on it? We treat the nonprofits the same as the for-profit business.
Because for me, that would be really something I want to take a look at before we just accepted some of these items that came from those areas, because they want to make sure we are looking at it from a level playing field, and because somebody asked in a different capacity, or the money was going to be used in a different way, that they were able to go through a different avenue. It just, I want us to be clear on how we're looking at spending the dollars.
Well, and their criteria was, first of all, they had to be in existence.
Yeah.
During the time of COVID. And then they had to be negatively impacted and put some quantifiable number to it. That's really all the criteria was for them. So some of these requests are for very specific things that you can argue are helping us go forward. They're not really fixing something from the past. But I think that's the only thing that we really talked about, is seeing a difference.
I think so. And the reality is, if they only handed out a small portion of that $300,000, it will make it easier, I think, from my perspective, to separate some of these nonprofit requests that have come in. And there would be more dollars to spend them, to divvy them up for.
Yep.
But
You have to wait for an EDC meeting to propose that to them.
Robin, can you tell us if they met in July? If EDC met in July? She probably has easier access to that right now than they just sitting here. If they at least held it, I know they canceled the July 13th, but I don't know if they met July 20th. Thank you.
You want to start approving pending
Sure. You
receipt of the money?
want to make a motion?
No, their meeting on July 13th was canceled. And they are slated after the 13th.
I'll move that we approve Article 1718, walking track improvements for $196,979. Pending receipt of second. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I second that for discussion purposes.
Yeah. Okay.
So my biggest issue, and we all know, we've come in under on some projects. Some items have been over. This is a pretty big project, and anything in the slightly into the construction world right now has ever increased in prices. Can you someone remind me, does this have any contingency dollars, or are these the exact dollars that were quoted to you?
The engineer would probably be better suited to answer that. However, in the discussions we've had, is that we have to be very aggressive on our bidding process and get multiple bids. And that might take a little time to ensure that we have best price and at an acceptable quality. So I'm comfortable that the dollars represented here were investigated very thoroughly in terms of what the market will bear today. So the delays to the project, I don't know what that looks like. When will the project actually begin? It's July. The possibility of getting that done this year might be, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I'd like to see it done.
So be permits. And 824 from planning and zoning that we needed, but I
Well, step
think
one
I
is to
feel
get the
more comfortable.
blueprints, get the blueprints done,
Yeah.
get the architectural blueprints done. Then we can go out to bid.
Mhm.
And
I just want to make sure we don't undercut ourselves, and we give you this very specific 196, 979 to recognition, and then they find out they need 220,000. So do we look at, some things are pretty cut and dry. Some things, I think it's better, I feel more comfortable not using those hard and fast numbers. I think we don't leave ourselves any wiggle room. And, you know, Troy and I can tell you almost daily, someone's telling us the cost went
Oh,
up from
sure.
where we were at yesterday.
It's gonna happen next year. That price, I'm sure, is not good.
Right, so.
So,
But that same thought could apply to almost every project on this list.
It could, I mean, it could, we know
Also,
vehicles,
You did a 10% contingency.
I think I just feel comfortable if we put a little bit of a contingency on it and obviously, everyone is gonna work to bring in the best product at the best price to everyone, but I just, it's such a strange world we're in right now. So, you know, while the Historical Society is looking for just a handful of things, that number I don't think is as important to really boost as this one. So I feel better if we increase this.
I appreciate your thinking. Because some of it is unknown.
Mhm.
Haven't tested the market. This
No.
is kind of a bidding process. And you're probably in a better position with being involved with construction. Like what might happen next year. The workforce might be fully empowered by then, I don't know.
And I don't know that we saw like the numbers from Carl. Oftentimes Carl will put
A little higher.
right,
I
a
thought there was-
factor in there, and I just don't know if it's in this number.
That was with the Ulster Road Bridge project, it came in, what, $70,000 under budget, enough to fix, you know, school road bridge.
We're not finding many projects that are, I mean, we just approved $60,000-$70,000 more on a public works truck that we're gonna take the discussion to Board of Finance because we know the prices are going up on a regular basis. So vehicles are a little bit different, but the construction world is very
What would you like? what
unstable.
number
So
would you-
I'd rather us put some more money on it, but Christine, can you
yeah,
tell me, I know we've given a lot back and then we
so,
deleted the whole project.
yeah,
Well,
so,
10% contingency would be 20 grand.
yeah. And that money's there. If we were to approve every single thing that's before us, including the library that we haven't even really gone to public hearing on, we would still have 50,000 left. And that doesn't include the 9,000 that we just returned. So almost $60,000. If we said yes to fully funding all of these things. So,
How about if I change my motion to 20?
That's.
Okay.
I would,
okay.
220.
I would agree to that and second that amended.
Any more discussion on that? All right, ready to vote? Okay, so all in favor of approving 220,000 for ARPA 1718? Please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain?
Can I just ask one question? I know it's not kind of a thing. Do you plan on trying to get that done this year? Like, are you moving forward?
We haven't done anything until ARPA made the
Nothing's
decision
been-
today
You know,
to approve the project with no money. So would Carl go forward with that?
I think it would
I
be
mean, it's
tough.
starting to, I mean,
Was there work involving public works as part of that? It was tough. In the construction season.
There was talk about, excuse me, there was talk about you digging the light holes, but I wasn't part of that conversation.
I mean, if somebody's digging out the whole thing, they should be.
Okay, we did, that's right, that was the
That was the
conversation.
conversation, yeah. If it was just doing the light project, we would do the
Uh-huh.
light project like we did last time.
What a pleasant surprise this is.
Yeah, and look, you could come in at 180 and, you know, I'd be
Give it
happy
back.
to give it back.
It's all
I
yours.
this is just changing in such a way that no one can anticipate right now.
So,
And I would hate to see us get so far in the project that when we don't have money and we allocate all of the other dollars. And if there isn't money to finish the project, then I don't want to see that happen,
have a nice day.
right? That would be terrible.
So in your, you said you received a letter that said the money is coming, or notification?
We've gotten information from OPM And that gave us some time frame. So we anticipate it being here by August 22nd,
August 22nd.
on or about. But again, until we have money in hand, anything is possible. And so
Sure, I
it's going
understand.
from the feds to the state to us.
Right.
So, but we do have reason to believe it's coming.
It's not,
You
Yeah,
had a positive
we did. We actually had a communication,
step.
which was great. And I
yeah,
shared that with
with an
Christina.
actual amount on it.
An amount and an
And
actual
the amount
date.
matched what they had previously said, so,
Okay.
Yeah.
so it's
It's
99%.
similar to
Thank
the
you.
process they gave us a year ago, so that should be happening, so.
That's a good faith
Yeah.
motion. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'll represent that to the board.
Okay. Do we want to approve anything else?
I'll move to approve Article 20. $20,000 pending. Arrival.
Some questions come up from that, from our public hearing. It's been so long. And
I think there was supposed to be a price from the propane.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, no, I think we're covered. We're still.
You're still
we'll
thinking
get
your
another
way?
bid. We'll get 2 bids. We'll probably get another before. We're still, we haven't decided whether.
Did everybody second that?
But yeah,
Also,
All right, any more discussion about that one? Ready to vote? All in favor of approving ARPA 20 for the new furnace at the firehouse for $20,000, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
record builder Robin took
Robin
both.
wasn't there, yeah. Okay.
She's just a chair. She's the only one in her office today.
Um,
Jenny's coming to us from the cafeteria.
okay. The next one on the list is the direct vacancy call line at Button Hill. And that is,
Article 28, technology upgrades.
Oh, shoot. yes, sorry. I wrote on top of it by accident. Yeah, does anyone want to make a motion on that, Steve?
I will make that motion to fund the $3,000 for the Senior Center for Technology upgrades pending receipt of the second tranche plan.
second,
All right, any discussion about that one?
Very small amount of money that's sufficient.
Who second? Troy.
Tom.
Oh, Tom. Oh, okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Making progress. All right, ARPA 30A, the direct emergency call line button. And what we had on the list for is 53,000, and I think what we're hearing from Don is that he'd like to add another 4,600
That was the generator. Thank
for
you.
the generator. Okay,
Very quiet
that was it. Okay,
location. I think we should be good with the $53,000 number to the best of my knowledge.
anyone want to make a motion?
Great.
These particular items, if they were to be approved, they need to, everything else after this is going to have to be on them to support, to maintain, that they already know they can't come back to the town and CIP for dollars for that. So, you know, we're investing in something that they don't have the funds to do, and I need to have confidence that they can maintain that moving forward without significant increase to the dollars that their residents pay. So.
Don, what is the annual fee for the emergency call line? Like, is there an annual ongoing fee?
No, there is, but this would just be, my understanding is it should be wrapped in as another call to our existing monitoring service and not an added fee.
So the 53 covers the installation of it everywhere, and that's the only cost for it
Right.
this year and forever.
That's my understanding. It includes new fire panels, because they didn't give us fire panels of inputs, so we could actually tie these things into it, so. Now, when it gets a signal of an emergency, it goes to our monitoring service, as we have.
Well, you're not gonna continue to getting your new device. I said, IT, right?
Oh, so that's what I was.
It's a valid concern,
It
Erica,
is.
and I've been involved with capital expenditure process for 30 years, and we would review these things. And 3 months later, it was, oh, I'm not here to say we should deny anything based on that, but I would hope that when you put out the award, that you maybe say that because this is ARPA money, we can't support any oops, or I forgot, or we might have a hard time supporting that.
But there's no ongoing cost with these call buttons, because there's going to be an ongoing cost with them. You've got devices in these units, there has to be an ongoing cost. I need to feel confident before we give you money that you can continue it on, and that these dollars aren't gonna just disappear at some point. Because we know that there can't be an ask back to the town, if at least the current agreement that's in place. So, right, so,
I understand it as the maintenance cost would be minimal, any more than you could say a light switch would fail in your building here. That's part of the switch, it's part of your maintenance, but how often does that happen? in Your home or any other building? Fairly simple system. Once you get the panel switched out, you have not paying like an additional service fee for a whole separate alarm system. This is all covered. So will there ever be a cost to it? Sure, alarm panel could get hit by lightning. Yeah.
I just
Hopefully you have
want to make
insurance
sure,
for that.
I need to hear that, I need to feel confident in that from the group that's asked for the money, that they're not gonna find that there's some kind of ongoing regular fee that we didn't know about, and that they'd be surprised. About it. So if he's comfortable with that,
The Board of Finance will not take lightly.
well, they just can't.
Next year saying, oh, ARPA approved it, now we have 10,000 a year for maintenance.
Well, no, because the agreement with the town says they can't ask for the dollars
Well.
through CIP. It's actually in their lease agreement. So there had been an ask for this
I hear you.
particular item to CIP and eventually denied
I heard
participation. So,
things like that.
yeah, the outlet for them would be their residents. And that would be
Oh,
concerning.
okay.
Yeah, that's where the money would come from. So,
I just will add, it would also be concerning if one of our residents fell down and was injured and nobody knew about it, which is our present situation.
right. And I don't think we're disagreeing with that, Don, but the building was built without that in place. So,
Experts.
Right.
Yep.
well, you were part of that, right? Right,
Okay,
so,
yeah.
right, so that's, we're not, nobody wants to see anybody be hurt. That's not what we're discussing. I want to make sure before we put the funds out, that there's not an expectation that we're going to continue to fund and that you have the source to do that, and that there's not going to be some surprise ongoing cost. That's, just for me, my due diligence is part of that.
I don't want to delay the approval, but I probably would go back to our alarm system company and have them generate some sort of document that would alleviate that concern. They're the ones that bill us for monitoring.
So the housing authority needs to be able to know if that's, I mean, that's all. So I don't need somebody else to tell you to tell us. If you know it, there's not any ongoing cost. That's the question I'm asking.
That's my understanding.
okay.
There's no
That's
additional
all I
cost.
wanted to
So
say.
you're confident? You're
Yes.
confident?
The only thing that I would say is that if someone falls in a house that's not, that's just in a house across the street, and no one knows about it. That's just how it is for 95% of people living in town, so. So there's that, but this is special in a way because the town did help to build it. It is, there is an expectation when people moved in that there is this emergency call system there, because there is something there that looks like it would work, but it just doesn't. So for that reason, I would be inclined to support this one versus the next one, the generator, which, that's why I think this one's a little bit different.
I think we have a motion.
Yes.
Second on the call line.
It is on the call line. Yep. It was.
I don't think.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Right, so I'll move to
Okay.
approve ARPA 30A,
There's some-
direct emergency call line at Button Hill for $53,000 from Fund 19.
Yeah, I'll second,
Okay.
sure.
Okay, any more discussion about that one? All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? This is another one that we're missing Robin for. That's okay. All right, so that means that it's good.
Thank you.
You guys can, but you have to wait until we get the money. Yeah, but I think you understand. Okay, the next one, ARPA 30B, the emergency generator. Wanna make a motion on that?
And if that's the one that you want the 4642 added to that,
Right, just for additional soundproofing beyond what was called. Because they're gonna be located between the buildings. Very sensitive location.
let's say you want 42.
One of those generators does power the sewage injector pump.
Is that in the building to inject it into the tank, or are you talking about behind the senior center?
Building 12 in Button Hill has power supply for the sewage ejector pump and the alarm system located at the senior center. That sewage pump also ejects senior center sewage up to the septic system.
Right, it's for the water, it's not the sewer, because it goes into tanks. So everything's gravity fed.
Everything's gravity fed to the sewage ejector pump that pumps it up to the septic system.
Right, but it's not going into the leach field, not the septic system. It's the leach field, the water, not the
Okay.
solids.
Pumps it
So
up to the
everything
leach
is gravity fed, and then behind the senior center where the liquids go, and then the liquids get injected into the leach field.
Septic tanks are gravity fed, but the leach field is pumped.
Yeah, because it's up on top.
Any,
So this is a total turnkey operation.
Should be able to turn itself on as well as with that additional $4,600 tied into the alarm system, tied into our monitoring service to report a malfunction in any way with the generator.
But there's a concrete pad being poured, it's all part of it.
I think it's a concrete pad, yeah.
Huh?
I think it's an 8-inch thick concrete pad. I don't have the quote in front
Gotta
of
go.
me, I guess. Tied into our propane
I'm
tanks.
going on mine.
okay, great.
All that's included, turnkey.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
There's no
No
motion.
one's made the motion yet. You want to make a motion?
But can we just discuss it?
Yeah.
If there's a motion?
I'm,
I have a few, sorry. I just have a few concerns that it's only considering those apartments. I mean, to me, I feel better with it being at the senior center where more people can go there. So you're only helping those. I'm not saying that's not bad, but I'll be the bad guy in this one. I feel that it's only helping those people in those units. And it's not powering everything. You know, it's a light bulb and just heat. So it's not, and it might be cold in the summertime or whatnot, but it's still air conditioning, refrigerators, and all this. It's not, it's only, you lost your wallet still.
Okay.
So I'm not in support of it, I'm sorry. Concur with that too.
you look at these projects that we've approved already or upcoming, they're generally applied to, I would say, a class of people that can help anybody in the town if you fall into that group, be it Parks and Rec, public safety, roads. All those apply to everybody. The rec department is, the rec, let people know, at least it's available to everybody. This is applied to 24 units, I believe 25 people specifically. And they said that I think that money would be better spent elsewhere as opposed to just taking care of these 24 units to give them minimal services.
I appreciate those thoughts. I have a question as well. What are the contingency for the town of Wellington for disaster? Where do the people go? Are the high schools equipped? Are the town?
So-
are schools
Stewart is our
equipped?
emergency management
Yeah,
director.
so Hall School has a generator that runs the entire building.
Okay,
So be it heating, some parts of the building has cooling, power throughout the entire building. It's a sufficient size generator to run that, and the town brings in more fuel as needed. We've had that run, I think, 10 or 14 days, go down there.
and
And
people,
And that's available for everybody to, depending on the level of services needed. We've done overnight shelters in the past, although the current recommendation, emergency management, the Red Cross is to do a regional overnight shelter, which ACS Smith has stepped up to be the primary for that. But we can do the overnight shelter if we had to. Now it's more be it cooling, water, showers, charge your cell phone, that sort of thing. And the whole school's fairly big, and it's been able to accommodate all the needs that we've had in the past.
it's been tested.
Yep, and we've had, elderly bed down people brought in there, we gave them kind of private rooms with their caregiver. Had that in there.
Now, was it 2012 or 2011?
Yeah.
There were two big years, so whichever one of the October snowstorm, we,
The Halloween stuff.
oh, yes, the shelter was opened and it became a 24-hour shelter. I think we all got a crash course
Yeah.
in sheltering. And it worked. And although Button Hill was not there at the time, Willington Woods was in place and sold with residents, and we were able to accommodate the needs of people. So people did come in to there. And so we have provisions in place, whether they be in town or, like you said, regional, for people. Because part of my concern about this is it's only taking care of a couple of things, right? It's not, I think we all know, we hear, this week is one of those weeks where we're looking at significantly high temperatures. And for our most vulnerable, the heat, excessive heat is equally as concerning as the cold. And so this isn't going to help them at those times. They would still need to seek somewhere else if we had another week where we were out of power, like Isaias in 2020. So this, while I don't doubt it would be beneficial, I wish it was something that had been thought of and put in place when the building was built. But I think there are different uses we can use for those funds that would, I believe, a broader population that could be used. And so I think every senior in Willington who doesn't happen to live in that housing would love to benefit from a generator in case their power went out in the winter time. But this isn't even keeping their food, it's simply heat. No, not the furnace, and one light,
Just heat and one light.
and one light, right, not air conditioning.
Heat
and-
and water naturally.
So they wouldn't lose water, they'd have hot water. So, our greater, I try to look at these things that benefit a greater population. And again, I don't disagree that it's not something that could be used. I'm just not sure. This is one that I fully support.
So I
So,
appreciate the answer to the question, and I would defer to those of you that have been through those emergencies to be the best to judge a town facilities adequate enough to handle all the citizenry, including the elderly housing people, as having a place to go to be safe.
we'd love to have full power for the fire
course,
facility, including the Wellington Woods, but
Right.
it's not in the cards. It's expensive, there's maintenance involved. Yearly for that. It's not that it's a bad idea, but I think there's other things that take precedence and apply to a broader population than just those 25.
Going back to your comment, senior system, the senior center, would be better suited as a point of
Yeah, absolutely.
centralized relief versus a number of apartments that doesn't serve a lot of people. I don't know how big the senior center is, but that'd be a better place.
I think it would be an adequate place for them to go, but then you would need staffing there. So some of my concern is if we were to say, okay, let's, and the senior centers that come to us for that, but we put those resources there, then we need to make sure that there's staffing in an emergency. And right now, our plan has our resources in one area. So that would take a, correct me if I'm wrong, Stuart, a different discussion about our emergency plan. If we then were planning to
Or some
have two
people
different
would-
facilities.
or who would step up and take over, just what happened at Hall School.
Right.
Stepped up at last minute notice to take care of things. Perhaps they could self-govern themselves there as well.
Right, I mean, we hope, but we would need to plan for it. Certainly, if we were to put dollars into the facility to be used like that, we'd want to make sure that we prepared for it to be manned, even if it is, it's just gonna be by, we know it's by volunteers. That's how it was done before. Like I said, we got a crash course. in
Difference
it.
is that
Even
the
without a
near-
call, people answered.
The senior center is open to everybody.
Yes,
And that's the biggest difference between those 24 apartments that, they're not, and I wouldn't expect to open their doors to have everybody file into their place for the one light bulb. And some heat, so that's why I don't support this.
and just if we turned our thoughts to this dollars for the senior center, again, and we start talking about it, it is open to anyone. So quite frankly, if I lived down the road here, I would go there for shelter before I check across town in a potential storm to Hall School. So then we have to think about, is it adequate enough for larger amounts of people? So I think setting up the senior center in a different way would take a little bit broader conversation.
Wellington Hill Firehouse is set up as a secondary shelter. They have
Okay,
an emergency generator there, they have a big hall. So again, either based on transportation problems or if the roadside, speak of, based down trees, there are other alternatives to go. Wellington Hill, to go there, there's no shower facilities, but there's a shelter, I believe it has air conditioning, and there's, well, it's heat. We can transport some cots there, and we've done that in the past for some situations.
good discussion, thank you.
Does anyone want to make a motion to just remove it from consideration? Sounds like we're not hearing a motion to approve it, so that's our other option, or table it. If there's more information.
Can I ask Jenny,
Mhm.
Jen, do you have the ability to weigh in here? In the past, and I don't know if you were with us during those times, but I know you were during ESAS and we didn't open up for a shelter. But we certainly had minimal facilities because of COVID. Do you feel like the resources we do have and the plans we do have in place would adequately support the seniors that live at Button Hill?
So just repeat that again, please.
So what the plans we do have in place and the processes, if we needed to open a shelter, whether it be for just services or overnight, do you feel that those are adequate enough for the residents in Button Hill?
At the senior center?
What we are currently have in place? I mean, it's what we've used before, and so,
Probably. I think so. I think so. And the folks at Button Hill tend to be have more mobility resources than folks over at Wellington Woods.
that's an important factor, so thank you for doing that.
Pleasure.
I'll make a motion to remove ARPA 30B. I made a motion to remove ARPA 30B, emergency generator of Button Hill for funding consideration.
Table that until we can have our manager on site at the meeting.
Well,
Everybody's
Yeah.
welcome to make-
Right.
I mean, I think they've weighed in already though, haven't they?
yeah, and
Is there new information we don't know?
Don't believe so, other than she could strongly support including it. Yeah.
I'm not sure that there's anything that she could say that would refute anything that we've been talking about. I don't know. But I also don't know if we can vote on it right now because Stuart just. I think
You
he
just
left.
voted to the- that's-
But we do have Tom and we have not Robin.
Six.
So
So
we
wait
could-
for Stuart to return.
yeah.
Look through the door. So we're still in discussion. So while I don't disagree that it would be a useful resource, I'm just not sure that it's a necessary one at this point. And it doesn't, in my mind, meet as many needs as even for this system, I would like it to have maybe offered a little bit more that might show us that it was needed, but that way.
Stuart, what you missed was that there was a motion made and seconded to take ARPA 30B out of consideration, just take it off the list. Any more comments on it? Any? So Robin, and Tom, I know, Tom, you're listening. If you wanted to weigh in, you could just wave your virtual hand. It's not waving his virtual hand. Okay, so we'll vote. All in favor of the motion of removing it, which is, please say aye. Anyone opposed to that? Debbie's not voting. Robin's not voting. And Tom?
Can you vote? Can you hear us?
Sure.
I'm an aye, sorry.
Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3. So we have,
Still don't. That's a majority. Yeah. Jenny just doesn't vote. Jenny, can you hear us? Although on the other side of the cafeteria door, 50 campers, so it could be anything.
I think we have 6. All right, so
I make a motion to approve ARPA 31. Historical Society Archival Storage, $15,000 from Fund 19. And for discussion, this is one of those, is the Historical Society fall under a nonprofit?
they
And so
do.
while I don't disagree that this would be beneficial to, a lot of the important archives of our town, the question becomes, did we have a level process for everyone who was a nonprofit?
Does that
That's my
exceed-
only pause.
Does that exceed the proposed $5,000 they're planning? Is that
They
right?
didn't say how much. They
Yeah, they
said they could give up
Up
to
to 15.
15.
But
But I don't know that this group would meet their criteria. So,
but it-
Yeah, I would say that, they didn't have a negative impact on income due to COVID.
they may not have been able to do their normal fundraisers, right? So, but I don't know that it would have fallen under that. I just want to make sure we didn't say to them, you should go there first, be denied and then come back here, right? Or have another opportunity where I can only think of one, someone who did put in a request and we said, no, you would fall under a project going through EDC.
Right.
And so it just gives me pause, wanting to make sure that we put all the requests, whether we approve them or not, on a level playing field. And that, you know, folks, I don't ever want a group be able to come back to us and feel like we didn't give theirs equal consideration to someone else's. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think what makes this particular request a little different is it's to do a specific thing. It's a very specific project, and it is another one of those projects that will allow them to go forward being more COVID friendly, and potentially be able to have fundraisers in the future so that their funds wouldn't be impacted. So, but it's a tangible, actual project. So, which is not the criteria that the EDC is asking for. So,
You have no cost benefit
yeah.
to this
Yeah.
project.
Again, I just wanted us to be able to have that discussion
Yeah.
because it was something I had been thinking of after they all came in and we had the public hearing.
Yeah.
Not that I think the project is great. I wanted us to be able to talk about it.
Mhm.
Hey, Christina,
Huh?
this is Tom. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Sorry. They, in one of their presentations, they did have some fundraising loss over COVID also. And I just want to make the point that there was, I believe, some pretty strong support in the public hearing for this one. That's all.
And Tom, I'll first say I fully support this and I think it's fantastic. I just wanted us to have the discussion about how people applied and what process they used to do that, and making
Sure.
sure that it was from our perspective.
Got it.
So we have a motion and we have a second, and we're still discussing if people have anything else to say about it. Let's see. Okay, so we can vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Tom, we can't see what your vote was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Oh, yeah. I'm an aye. Thanks.
Okay. All right. ARPA 32, we already decided to basically table that. ARPA 33.
I have mixed emotions about this. The process, the idea of it is not my issue. And I think we need to know for sure that this group is a nonprofit. They were in the process of.
Right.
So I think we would be violating our own rules by, giving funds to just a group who asked for it, because that would not be anyone who would, if we're using revenue loss as a category, who we would just normally give money to, we'd go to the town to do that. So I would just ask that we hold this to get some more information from them.
Yeah, and would we wouldn't be giving them a check for the $6,500. We would be paying for the things that they've outlined, like directly, right?
Right.
And so that, yeah, I agree. We need to make sure. And I don't know if the selectmen worked out the, have you worked out the
We have not had a meeting.
details. Okay, so yeah, I think that one needs to be tabled for, so we know how to do that. So is that a motion to table?
I will-
I guess it's table.
Can we just take no action?
Yeah, just take no action.
So it remains on the board.
What's the next one? Article 34. Storage box.
I will move to approve ARPA 34, storage box and DPW, excuse me, for evictions for $6,000 from Fund 19.
Any discussion about that one?
The only thing I would say is that might go up just a little bit, the course for 30 days.
Ah.
So
Like
I just happened to
everything
look
else.
at, so I mean, I'm sure it's not gonna go up huge, but there might be a little bit. I was looking at that today, and it was good for 30 days, so.
So what would you suggest?
I don't know, maybe $500 or $1,000, I mean, That's hard to, it could be gold, maybe not.
I amend my request to up to $7,000.
Any more discussion about that one? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Robin is abstaining. Is that right? Or
Or you have a question?
are you have a question? You're muted.
You're-
No,
Oh, yeah.
I'm abstaining because I missed the whole thing, so.
Okay. All right. Passes. All right, ARPA 35, the UR Cares Community Network. Services. I'm gonna make a motion.
Was that you wanted to, Jenny? Are you making a motion?
No, that was an okay, because I didn't think anyone was going to, but that's okay. I mean, whatever. They came to us, they offered it. I said I would sponsor it and, we'll see what happens. I mean, they are getting funding from my department, so they will be brought to Willington, but they did indicate that with this additional funding, they'd be able to do more. So, I mean, whatever happens, happens.
So what should we do? Do we want to table it or do we want to remove it?
You can make a motion, Jenny.
Make a motion.
I'm not going to make a motion because that's my department and I don't feel right voting or making a motion on anything that benefits my department or my constituents.
I
So
think that's why you're here. You're here to speak for those.
I am, and
when
I'm
you
happy to
personally-
advocate for that, but
Yeah,
I
mean, when you
don't feel
personally
right.
benefit, I think it's different when it's you personally, but you're here, your position was into this commission specifically to bolster those projects that you believed would benefit. And I think part of that is supporting them in full.
Well, I think that's true, and I'm happy to advocate for it, but making that first move, I feel uncomfortable with it. But I want to let the commission know that I would be willing to negotiate a lower amount if that's something that you guys would be.
I'll make a motion that we approve ARPA 35, bring UR Community Cares that work to Willington for the amount of, say, 5,000 instead of 6. Sorry, Jenny.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Troy.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Stuart. Second. Any more discussion on that one?
Well, let's pretend, let's assume that this is a successful project over the next year or so. What are the ongoing costs after that?
Jenny?
That's kind of changed.
So I'm happy to speak to that, but unfortunately I wasn't able to hear the entire question. So could you please repeat it?
What are the ongoing costs? If this project works out, what's the ongoing cost for year 3, 4, 5, 6?
$0. It would be a one and done funding.
The group is based, it's volunteer based, correct, Jenny? Yeah. So I believe when she came and spoke, it was the work should be able to just set up here in Willington. This would be beneficial to some of that. And then the idea is that it supports itself.
Absolutely. So basically it would be to recruit and train volunteers in the community to be my boots on the ground, doing the things that my department does not have the manpower to do to assist our seniors in the community.
And this is just for Willington residents. It's not, that money is just.
Right. That's just for Willington. Is she, I believe she said that she was in multiple other towns. She was just starting to consider funding from ARPA dollars. But for instance, if you needed help raking your lawn, or you needed help, she would connect people with the needs of the seniors and people who could help them. So you need help cleaning out your garage, and she couldn't do, I say she, or he couldn't do that. And that your community cares would match up some volunteers with the resident in need, specifically seniors.
Absolutely. And it's great because they do all the background checking and all that thing. So it's so much safer than just, hey, put something out on Facebook and see if someone in the community will help. So it's really, it protects everybody, keeps everybody safe, and it connects people with the need with people who want to help.
And the organization is in some of our larger towns and cities, based out of Manchester, and fully functioning in some of these towns.
So. did we vote?
No.
Oh. All right, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain?
I will abstain.
Okay,
Okay.
it passes, so. That's great.
Yeah, it's a great.
That's our agenda.
So ARPA 36, we already put on the table. ARPA 37. I'm gonna be a bad guy at this one tonight. And I'll make a motion to remove it. And I can explain if anybody wants to. second that.
Ready to go back.
I don't know.
Can we have some discussion
Sitting
before? we
across from
go?
the gentleman, I don't know.
Well, I'll explain, because I'm the chairperson of the CIP committee. It's not a commission, it's a committee, where we plan all of these large purchases. This particular thing has never been on the list as a want or a need. So it's just literally just that if the library came asking for something, which they are, that has never been on the list. They've actually never put anything on the list because they just, I think, didn't understand the process. So that's one thing, but just that, and the fact that a lot of these dollars have gone for things that are already public works related. So
I'm gonna counter the CIP aspect of that. The repairs to the library have never gone there. The firehouse furnace, it's a very old furnace that I don't think there's any question should actually have been on for multiple years and coming up, and we didn't hesitate to do that. I think the improvements at River Road is something that should go through CIP. We could look at other sources of funding for some of these things. That particular reason for denying, I think I was pretty honest with Troy when we talked about this and said, this may not be something that if it stops working ever, that could be replaced, right? Because of that process. And I think he's aware of that, but we have the opportunity to utilize these dollars to be able to get something to further assist the work. We know Public Works struggles with not just staffing, but some of the tools that they have that we know other towns have so that they can get work done. And I think this would be beneficial. And I don't know that this is something we would put through CIP because we really, really are so very careful with the dollars. There's so few dollars, but there are other big ticket items on here that have never gone to CIP too, so.
well,
But he talked about all the things he could do with it and all the extras, and I said, if you can't get those, can you still use it? And I think I asked that question here, and the answer was yes, because there may not be budgeted dollars for it. So the maintenance is really the only guarantee to utilize this, but that's my 2 cents.
well, I do think the River Road stuff was in CIP, but it was in like year 4 or year 5,
Just like.
just the lights. And then we realized through
And
this
the
process that the
Yeah,
drainage.
look, I'm not denying that, I think they're all good, but if we're using CIP as the only way to have gotten on ARPA, I think that's a pretty slow.
Yeah, no, it's not the
I'm
only.
just
only way to
countering.
get on it, but
I'm just countering that argument.
yeah. I don't know if anyone, where we go from there, but. So I made a motion, but nobody seconded it, so.
I'll make a motion to approve Article 37. Here, speaks to it.
to mow Tom on it where the high grass. Right out of the trunk, kids, because there's that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, did anyone second? Who made a motion to approve? Who made a motion to second?
Are you seconding, Tom?
Yes,
That was a
Tom is
second.
second.
I'm giving a thumbs up.
Okay. Any more discussion about it?
I think in the long run, this will be the most versatile machine that they have there. You can do lots and lots of things. Ask for the variety of projects over time, so well, years or whatever. I think it's a good investment.
Yes. All right, we can vote. All in favor?
Right.
Robin? All right, all opposed? I'm gonna abstain now.
I'll abstain.
Detroit's gonna abstain. Okay. So that one passes. And we have run out of things, which is amazing. So, right, we got everything on this list.
Yep.
Okay. So moving on to the funder request submissions. There was another thing I wanted to talk about, which I don't know if it needs action, but it's the fact that people have been complaining that we have these meetings during the day, which makes it difficult for some people to attend. And I don't know, when we first started this process and we said we're gonna meet every other week to get through the work, the hard work part of it, where we had to have these long meetings. I think that's why we were having them in the afternoon. And our compromise was to have public hearings in the evening, but I'm wondering now if we're at the point where we need to have these afternoon meetings, and maybe we're just public hearings at this point, or we're evening meetings, and maybe we're only meeting once a month. What does everybody think about that?
Hey, Christina?
Robin? Robin?
sorry.
So yeah, these meetings are like, we're going into 2 hours. And I've been like, because I'm alone here today, during the day is not always great for me, just especially like when Rachel's not here, and I've been like really despondent and stuff. So I'm sorry that I have to help people and I can't contribute. But it just seems like there's a lot of, I can't think of the word, but people are not happy that we're not meeting at night. So I would be willing to, discuss further and see if we could meet on Monday nights or whatever. I'd be open to that.
So I would say it would need to be a different night, could not be on the same Monday. That conflicts with Board of Selectmen meetings. I think I'll once again, I know there are people who feel like the meetings only need to be at nighttime for those who are only available during the day. Again, we can see who's on the meeting. That when we say only nighttime, we exclude an entire population of people as well. That the meeting should be what works for the commission or board, and that it needs to be open and available to the public. So all of our meetings are open and available to the public. We have recordings and we have minutes, and then people can be here. So with that said, I understand while that may not work for everyone, but it has to be what works for the board or commission. And I mean that in the general sense, not just this one. So when I first proposed this, there are numerous staff and thought it was simpler. If the commission feels it should be at a different time, we'll need to look at a different day. And then the staff folks, Mondays work here till 7:30. So wouldn't really change until we met after 7:30 on a Monday, but it certainly couldn't be the first and the third Monday anymore.
Well, maybe we don't need to meet twice a month now. Maybe just once. Because if we do open it up again, at least, I can't do the math.
There's only a limited
But
supply of
there's not much
There
more
is,
money left,
right.
so, yeah. So it's not like we're gonna even be able to consider, 20 more things. We have 39 projects, so we've worked through not 39 things. Maybe we'll get 3 more, so maybe, so that's why I'm thinking we don't need to meet every other week now. So maybe it's on the 2nd or 4th Monday of the month. And maybe, like, just looking at August, that would be either the 8th, which, and that would be next week, which is silly because we still wouldn't have the money anyway, or the time for the people to apply. So the 22nd would be the next one.
We're actually closed.
Oh, on the
Okay.
22nd?
Yes, that is day by select.
Oh,
When
Oh.
Juneteenth became a
oh,
contracted holiday, we
Oh,
moved, so
moved
day
it.
by selectmen, and picked a random Monday.
okay. Well, what about August 29th?
So
Or,
considering leaving it on days on Monday.
I think that's up to us to, how
yeah.
everyone feels about it.
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking is, let's just look at August, and the different issues there. So what if we say, cancel the meeting that's supposed to be on the 15th? And we have a meeting in the evening on the 29th. By then, we will know, we should have the money in hand. We should be able to solicit a couple of more projects, or at least get some closure on these other things that are tabled.
I mean, what time are we thinking? Because again, then that's the evening time
No,
when, some staff are working. Probably.
6:30. How do you guys feel about that? And then we can talk about September once we see where we're at in August. We'll also have some closed projects to close at that point too, and know how much money has come back, so. I don't know. What do you guys think? 6:30? What do you think?
I'm comfortable with them still during the day. So,
I
you know,
don't
Monday
think so.
Monday nights are probably a little tougher, only because we're only open one evening. So if it were to pull staff away in an evening time, that's the only
Yeah, that's
evening.
almost
So
worse.
that for like what Robin is saying, if a 1:30 is just as difficult, 6 o'clock could be equally as difficult on a Monday night. So if we felt like we needed to switch to a night, I would consider a different night, not a Monday night.
Mhm.
When's the board of finance meeting?
They're the third Thursday.
Yeah, so
That'll
that
be
meeting will be
before
on
the
the 18th,
20
on the 18th,
Oh.
on the 18th, yeah.
I'll do whatever you guys want to do. Days, nights.
How about we do the 29th and keep it at 1:30, because we're not doing the public hearing.
Yeah, I think I've been on the record saying those public hearings, I think is important. That's when we need to hear most of the public, but the rest of our commission meetings, although we do offer a present to speak, the work is of the commission. And our work is not, there's no lack of transparency. Everything we've done is out in the open, in public, on the record for folks to see. Our YouTube videos allow it to be seen multiple times. You can stop and pause and watch the same conversation as many times as you want. And we've allowed greater access to folks. So, but I will defer to the rest of the commission. If the commissioners feel like this isn't the best time for us to meet, then we have to all be able to meet, so everyone needs to have a voice. And right now, we have very few of us here.
Yeah. Tom, what do you think of that?
I see he's driving, otherwise he's strapped into a lawnmower.
He's giving us a thumbs up to keep it at 1:30.
He doesn't care either way. That's
But,
what-
would you be okay with just waiting till August 29th at 1:30? Well, actually,
And I'm fine with that too. I'll just try to make sure that, Rachel's here and
No more vacation.
yeah, no more vacation.
Summer is hard for almost every board we have in town.
yeah.
Because people are away on vacations. Summer's hard.
Okay. All right, well, so we'll move forward with that. I will make an official cancellation of the August 15th meeting, because that is on the schedule
Yeah.
as a regular meeting. So the 29th is technically a special meeting. But we can't meet on September 5th, which would be when the next meeting would normally fall, so we have to figure. So
So on the 29th, we can have hopefully a broader conversation.
yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing to decide is, do we want to open it up? Reopen.
So hopefully by then we'll have money.
I would say wait for the money.
Yeah, we'll have a better sense of the money's here and
The money's here, the money's here. It's not here, it's not there.
Yeah,
well, then we can look at all these projects will be in. We'll have a better sense of the
Wait
chapter,
for the money.
what's
Right.
left.
what's left?
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I don't
okay,
say we open it up anymore until,
Right,
Less people to tell bad news to if we don't get the money.
right. Okay. All right, so any other action that anybody can think of to take? So moving on to present to speak.
Tom Burr, 34 Red Oak Hill, Village, Connecticut. I'd like to thank the board for their time and their consideration. I'd like to thank the approval of the call for rate system, which is very important. Needless to say, we're disappointed the generators could not make it through the process, but thank you for consideration.
The only other person is Ralph on Zoom. Ralph, did you have anything to say?
No, I'll refrain.
Okay, thanks. All right, well, then we can entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Okay. Second. All right, all in favor? Aye.
I
Thanks, guys. So August 29th,
Thank you.
we'll be in touch.